All right, hey everyone, Steve here back on the layout channel. Just want to real quick do a quick track planning update. In the last video I posted, we were talking about this track plan here, which was kind of 3 levels, or a lower level, an upper level, and kind of like a transition level. First off, I just want to say thanks to everybody who provided feedback, comments, suggestions, tips, or clarification on certain things. I do appreciate all that feedback. It was all great feedback. A lot of feedback told me that I had things in the right places, as far as the locations of, in the right order for placement of certain areas, on the subdivision. Also got some feedback, that kind of made me aware of a few things that maybe I hadn't thought of, and then some things maybe I was thinking of, but maybe I wasn't a huge fan of. As far as this like transition level here, I wasn't a huge fan of it just because, it gave me more run area, but it forced me to lower my, the yard height down at Bakersfield and then raise the height up at Mojave. So, those were gonna be kind of far apart to have this level run in between them. So, wasn't a huge fan of that. Also kind of revisited the layout, just kind of in general, how I had it set up, maximizing space and things like that. So anyway, appreciate everybody who, commented. It was all great feedback, and I took a lot of it to heart, and we got an updated track plan. All right. And here is that updated track plan for now. Now on this one, I haven't gone ahead and put in all the, the stuff that goes around the edging yet, just because that's really just separation between upper and lower level. It's pretty easy to do that, come back and do it. But let me show you what I got here, and we'll just kind of walk you through it real quick. So this is only gonna be 2 levels. Lower level here is going to be Bakersfield. Trains would leave Bakersfield. This would be Edison through here, Sandcut, Bina, and then it would kind of come in here to Caliente Creek, Caliente. It would come back up here's tunnel roughly 1, 2. Then you start the Beeville siding. Beeville siding would kind of come around through here. End about here, nice long siding here. Tunnel 3, maybe cut out of 4 where it used to be. That washout isn't actually there, that bridge. That's just, again, I just use like other cut up track plans, they're the same size, and use them to kind of, give me like a, basically shapes to play with, I guess. And then maybe like tunnel 5, 7, 8, like in here, this would all be single track. And then you would get into double track. It would be like Woodford area, take you all the way up here to Waylong. Go down to single track before going into the loop. Before the loop, it would cross under tunnel 9, or pass through tunnel 9, goes back to double track. Then you've got tunnel 10 here, double track across the swing gate. Marcel would be like in this area on the upper level. Around here would be like your 3 tunnels. It is 3 tunnels. Thanks, Bob, for clarifying. Tunnels over here by Cable. And then you'd have the town of, on the upper level, Tehachapi. You'd have the concrete plant Monolith down here. And then you would have Mojave Yard up here. Now from Mojave Yard, the trains would just kind of continue here. They would turn right, right around here. This would be like simulate the 14 flyover freeway where the trains disappear. Then the trains could, this would just simulate running out to Barstow and Palmdale Cutoff. And then they'd probably just disappear here. And then they would just come behind the scenery. And then I've got some options. I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do the lower level, but I've got a lot of areas I can, kind of bring those trains down underneath scenery if needed. I can use the loop to have a couple helix passes underneath it just to bring them down to the lower level. And then I can either do one of two things. I can either have a second swing gate that's, a couple feet lower than this one, maybe like have them connected in tandem. So if you open one, they both open. And then those trains on the lower level would come back here to Bakersfield Yard. And if I did that, I could have, some of the BNSF tracks along here, or maybe under here as somewhere as staging. That's one way of doing it. Or instead of having them come across this swing gate, they could maybe, once they get down to this lower level, have some staging tracks, and then they could always loop back and eventually, come back up here, and they're back on the upper level through Mojave, and the train runs the opposite direction now. If I did that, I would need to also have Bakersfield Yard here come through the wall and do like what I talked about on my last video, where it just kind of does a loop back around my HVAC unit in another room. Both doable. Let me know what you think. Maybe what's better, more prototypical for running trains. One continuous run, upper level to lower level, back to upper level, or, kind of two big dog bones, where an upper level dog bone or a lower level dog bone where, the train runs one direction and then turns around and kind of comes back the other. But yeah, that's kind of it. I can come back and put in like all this, this stuff later on. It was just, I just kind of wanted to put an update out there and let me know, get some feedback on this before getting too far and having to change too much. But good spacing here in the aisles. Again, about, I think 27 to 30 inches, nice wide aisles all around. And then somebody did ask about my loop, would there be access points? And of course I would have access points to be able to get in there for maintenance, or if there's ever a derailment or anything like that. Not the derailments that ever happen at Tehachapi. But yeah, that's it. I'm gonna try to keep this quick. If anybody's got any feedback, comments, questions, suggestions, please, I'm all ears. Also, if anybody's really good at doing track plans, maybe whether it's with software or just hand drawing, let me know. I'd definitely like to get a nice one at some point done once this is finalized. That way I can maybe put one on the wall or something, or I've got a better one to kind of go by when I'm building. But this is very rough, and again, I'm not an artist, so if anyone's good at it and wants to help, I'm more than happy to use that service. So that's it, I think. Appreciate it. Take care.